Holiday crafting is here. Let's jump right in. Today's playlist is What Would You Make, hosted by Rustic and Lace DIY, Divine Designs, and special guest host, Crafting My Best Life with Lisa. Playlist in the description box below. The first side of this wood round from Dollar Tree is white. The back side is a wood color, so I'm going to leave the white side as it is, and I'm going to be using some of IOD's products. I'm using the Winter Forest stamps from the 2024 Christmas release, and I'm going to be using 3 of those, and the ones that you want to show up in the front you actually put down first. So I'm using 2 different colors of green ink, and I'm going to be stamping those onto my wood round. Once I have those inked up, I'm going to place that down onto my wood round and press gently. When I think I have it complete, I'm going to pull straight up. The third tree I'm going to use will actually be in the back, or look like it's in the back. So I'm using these masks that also come with the stamps, and I'm going to place them on top of these 2 trees. And then when I stamp the last tree, it will look like it's behind these 2.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around, keeping...
Now, if I were just leaving this with trees, I wouldn't have been very happy with the way this third one's stamped, but the bottom part of that is actually going to be covered up by this transfer from last year's IOD Candy Cane Cottage transfer book. As of now, I left this side of the wood round just as it is, but I feel like it's missing something. Let me know down in the comments what you think I should add to this.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around, keeping...
Everything has 2 sides, so let's flip it over for side number 2. I'm going to give this side a coat of Fusion paint in Carriage House. It's a beautiful green color. I couldn't wait to use this wreath from this year's Yuletide Rub-On Transfer book. So I cut it out and I added it to the middle of this wood round, and it's pretty small, but we're going to fix that in just a minute with some molds. Once I have that transfer adhered, I'm going to get out my IOD air dry clay and the Trimmings 1 mold. And I'm adding my clay to the mold. I'm going to be needing 3 of these, so I'll have to do this 3 times, plus about 1/4 of one for the very end. Each time I remove one of these molds, I'm going to add it onto the round so I can see exactly how I want it to fit. And as I said, I used 3 of these molds plus about 1/4 of another one just to make it fit onto the wood round. Once I have it placed like I want it, I'm going to be using some wood glue on the back of this while it's wet so that it will dry in this circle shape.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around, keeping...
Also, while the clay is still wet, I'm going to gently give it a coat of that same Fusion paint in Carriage House. And this is difficult to get all into these nooks and crannies, so I used several different brushes in order to do that. Now that it's the next day, I'm going back with a little bit of clear wax and I'm going to be rubbing that onto the entire piece.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around.
Using a chip brush and gold rub and buff, I'm going to be dry brushing along the top of the mold wreath. I did randomly add some of this gold rub and buff in various places all over the wood round as well, and then I went back with a wipe, and since we placed that clear wax on there, this gold will wipe back a little bit. I love the addition of the gold rub and buff to this. Let me know what you think. All that's left is to add a hanger that will work with both sides.
Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around, keeping.
I would love to know which side is your favorite, 1 or 2. And thanks again for our hosts for hosting today. Be sure and check out their channels and the playlist in the description box below. For this project, I'm going to be using one of IOD's 2024 Tapers molds. So I'm using more air dry clay just on the top part of the Santa taper mold. You do want to dust your molds with cornstarch or something similar when you're using air dry clay, and then flip it over and let gravity help it to fall out. I'm using wood glue to glue my clay piece to this piece of wood that I already had on hand. I had some leftover milk paint that I didn't want to waste, so I just painted this board for a future project. It's kind of a blue color, and so I'm using this wood glue, and I'm going to spread that onto the back of the Santa head and then place him right down on that wood piece. I added a twine bow and a little bit of greenery, and then this project was complete. This is a sign I got in one of Michael's $5 boxes. I got several of them, in fact, and the other side has this Let It Snow on it, but this side had a few imperfections, so I filled that in with some of that plastic wood. I went over those places with some elephant chalk paint, and then I'm using some Stockholm green milk paint. I've mixed this up, and I'm just going to keep layering it on and using my heat gun to dry in between each layer. Once it was dry, I used my scraper tool here, and I just scraped off the paint around the edges, any chippy areas that I could chip away more, just gave it more of that rustic look. I also used my finger sander to sand around the edges as well. For the graphics on this sign, I used a laser printer and some cheap copy paper that I got at Dollar Tree, and I mirrored the image and printed it off. I cut away the excess paper, and then I used Mod Podge and painted the Mod Podge onto the graphics and then placed it down onto my sign. You'll want to leave this overnight and let it dry, and do not add Mod Podge to the back of the paper. Usually what you would do is add this to a coat of paint that is white. I'm using it on green, and we're just going to see what happens. The next day, I'm going to spritz my graphics with water until I can see those letters start to come through. You can also use a damp rag for this, but you need to make sure that you can see those letters coming through the back of the paper before you start rubbing. Now that I can see those letters peeking through, I'm going to keep my fingers damp or spritz it with a little more water and rub away the white part of the paper. As you can see here, there is kind of a haze or a halo around the graphic. That's why you typically want to do this on white paint. But I decided to use my finger sander and see if I could sand away at those areas. And it seemed to work great. I also sanded lightly over the letters. It's okay if some of that graphic comes off because, again, this is a country Christmas sign and a country Christmas craft. Now, before I sealed it with Mod Podge, I spritzed it again with some of that water so it would kind of darken up the places that you could still see that haze. That way, when I put this Mod Podge on top, that haze is not going to show at all. And there you have it. Our country Christmas sign is complete, and I have to say I'm absolutely thrilled with how it turned out. The rustic wood and the bold letters just scream country Christmas to me, and I know it's going to be a stunning addition to my holiday decor. For more inspiration on holiday crafts and Christmas crafts, be sure and check out the playlist in the description box below, along with our host channels. Here's another video I think you might like. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to share the chic. Bye now.